Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And I probably should not have started with the peace greeting, but I did because I'm not here really to preach hostility to anybody, but I'm going to explain something that can be misconstrued as a hostility. I've talked to you about the Bedouin niggas out here whom I teach. They don't abide by the rules in many cases. They are very, very capable and they're quite smart, but they utilize all of their faculties to cheat and get away with it. Not to learn, not to pass, not to study, not to develop the skills, nothing like that. They utilize their faculties to cheat, just to cheat. And to get away with cheating. I've told him multiple times, and they've said, no, we're not going to go about this the right way. We're not really going to study. But today something happened for which I've been waiting for 10 years, damn near 11. I landed here a few months shy of 11 years ago first. And the first time I gave a quiz, the students began to cheat. Just openly cheat. They didn't care and they weren't going to stop. And so I said to myself, well, if these guys are going to do this, how the hell is it that they've been allowed, and how was this country developed if they're all cheating like this? I mean, India has a cheating problem, especially in its rural areas, but guess what? Would you move there? Would you give up living where you are now to live in India? You wouldn't do it. It has potential. You know that it does. But how is that potential being realized right now? You know that it's not. So what happens when you go to places where there's potential, but they don't realize it very well, and where cheating is just generally considered to be okay? I mean, would you give up a nice situation in the States to go live in China, and China's developed, but would you give up living in the US to live there? They have a cheating problem. The same thing is true here. And they've gotten better for the most part, but academically speaking, many people are still not accountable. So today, I was on my way to work and my boss sent an email to me telling me that my students who failed the semester are now waiting to see me. Well, of course they're waiting to see me. So I took the back way to my office, not to escape, but to prove something. When I turned the last corner to be in view of my office, a bunch of my students turned another corner, which means they had been posted up in different areas in case I went a back way, just to make sure that I didn't go to my office without them knowing. And then they all showed up, which means they were communicating with each other in a group. I said, okay, you are capable of cooperation and coordination. You just proved it. Why did you not do this when it came to English? But now you want to show up and talk to me about the marks you guys earned, and I just recorded them. And they tried all kinds of BS. One of them tried religious blackmail. I mean white mail. If we don't reach a solution, you know there is a law above and a judgment day. And I was like, yes, nigga, I know that, of course. But understand this. God's not punishing people for being honest. He's not punishing you or me because we did our job and somebody else didn't like it when we did it. He punishes corruption. And I am doing my damn job. You, sir, got every point you earned, and then some. But while I was trying to keep up with you knuckleheads and your being all over the place, and then the infrastructure not being available and not working well, while I was trying to keep up with all of this stuff, since it wasn't your fault, and making sure that I made all these adjustments so that you didn't suffer for those things, there's still the issue of your English, and you did not improve in that. See, I've lived in 4 different cities here. One was Riyadh, that was the third one, and then where I'm living now. And the accountability was always missing from the system, not in writing, but in actual implementation and in practice. Even when Saudis demanded it from administrative positions, others that were underneath them, non-Saudis that were underneath them, like Jordanians or Egyptians, would undermine the accountability so that the worst of the local population got ahead the most quickly, and the best and the brightest got held back and was subject to the whims of their most corrupt. That's how this worked. When I decided that I was going to go ahead and apply the book, and I only gave 2 students some points so they could pass, and that's because they were so close underneath the threshold of passing that frankly they would have been given those points by somebody else anyway. So they passed. And they didn't truly pass, but they would have after enough grade appeals. So what I did was I wrote down that the rest of them, because they did, I wrote down that they failed, and they did fail. And I turned it in, and then they showed up today. All of a sudden, most of them were there today. Probably about 12 of them. Here they were. Well, why? And I was like, you know what, man? I know it's 21 of you. You're thinking, how could we all have failed? You know what? Don't tell me what other professors did or didn't do. I don't think they had 23 students that were unprepared. All of you, when I met you, were unprepared, but I said you can catch up if you do X, Y, and Z. You all didn't do it. It's not because you ever took a bathroom break that you failed, but it was how comfortable you guys felt just spending so much time not in the classroom. So when I set the threshold at 10 minutes, some of you stayed in the classroom most of the time, but you still didn't fix the mistakes. Others of you didn't even stay in the classroom. You would stay gone for 9 minutes and 40 seconds, and you would sit there and count it and put a stopwatch on just so that you could say, well, I was back within the 10 minutes, but you didn't really want to be in class. You weren't serious about learning English and fixing your mistakes. Now you're serious about trying to convince me to change your marks, your grades. And they kept interrupting even then. And I said, hey, guys, it's in the platform. My first day on the job, I was told by my boss and then by his boss over the rest of us to not take away marks that students earned, which is understood, but to also not give marks that they didn't earn and just pass along some of them if they weren't passing. I said, okay, fair enough. If they're truly failing, I will apply the book. I will apply the system. So, therefore, I did that. And this time, 21 of them failed. Now, the question is, how did 21 out of 23 students fail? Simple. By me doing what I was supposed to do when the other professors were scared. All the other professors would say, well, you know, if you failed that many, you're going to get in trouble. I was like, okay, well, then what happens if they all fail? All the professors have been afraid to report the true number of students failing, so the actual true number of students failing has done nothing but go up because the students have understood, well, you know, if enough of us just perform at a low level and a low quality, then they're afraid to fail all of us. So only the bottom 2 are really going to fail, or the bottom 3. That's what they've been saying. They've been like, well, they pretty much have to just be brain dead. And you've had many students many sections where the professor would just go ahead and pass everybody. So then what happens? They kept kicking the can down the road. When it got to me, I went by the book because I was given those orders my first day here on this job. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of things got discovered. I'm telling you this for a reason. I'm not telling you this to bore you. I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to land this jet black aircraft. This would wound up being the case, y'all. From this, it's been discovered that now they will be able to prove some of the professors have been doing this. And then they'll be able to prove that other professors have been doing this, passing students that didn't pass. Not only that, but now they're able to prove that the registrar's office wrongly grouped low-performing students together in the same sections, so some professor was going to wind up with the worst students, in which they would have all failed if you went by the book, and it happened to be me this semester who goes by the book. I was actually assigned to this section because the way the sections were numbered, this section in any other semester would have been either a mixed section of good and high and low performers or a section of high performers. But because the registrar's office decided to get lazy, they put low performers in one section. These guys all knew each other from previously. That's why they were so organized, but they weren't studious. And so these students were grouped together based on their low performance. And when my boss assigned me to this section, not knowing that they were numbered this way, differently from how they were numbered before, it just so happened, hey, you know what? Now, here I am sitting up and observing that every single one of the students is not prepared. The one exception had to be dropped because he stopped coming to class, and he confided in me before he stopped coming. Before his last time in class, he confided in me. He knew the other students did not trust him. I asked him why. He said, because I'm actually prepared. They know that I'm actually bilingual, so they don't trust me. Like I'm fluently bilingual, correctly bilingual, so they don't trust me. I said, oh my God. He told me this. We don't have proof, but he did tell me. He wound up having to be dropped because he didn't show up for class. So then we were down to 100% of the students being unprepared and not making necessary improvements in order to catch up for the appropriate level they needed to be just where they were, let alone prepared for the next level to come. So now we found a registrar's office malfeasance. This will also be able to prove that the admissions office has not been doing their job for years now, going back to 2022 and 2023. I thought I might have gotten in trouble because many professors thought they would. But what I found was that the AI specialist, my boss, and then his boss over the rest of us, all three said, no, you did the right thing. Now we have what we need to make some things better. And we're going to be able to go back and prove that some of these students here, based on their work, were not even fit for the intermediate level, but they were in intermediate when they should not have been passed there, and then they were passed from intermediate to you. So we're now going to be able to go back and prove that none of these, that they were not supposed to pass anything. They were supposed to have failed out a long time ago. And we could have replaced them with better performing students if others had done their jobs. I say this to you for a reason, black man. What I've had to do and what it is discovered is actually nothing compared to what you're going to have to do as this winter gets colder. It's not arriving, it's already here. It's not coming, it's present. It's winter, right mother cuss word now. But know something about this winter, black man. This winter, you were going to have to do something similar to what I had to do. This winter, you were going to have to, sometimes you will answer the door And some mom with her children is going to be sitting out in the snow asking for a place to sleep where it's warm, and you're going to have to look at her and the kids and say, nah, not my problem. Like I had to look at my students today and say, well, I taught you guys, but when you didn't make the corrections I taught you, it's not my problem. I didn't actually fail you and I didn't pass you. I recorded what you got. To be honest with you, 50% of their marks didn't even go through my hands. The grades were always in their hands, but 50% of them didn't even go through my hands. They only went through my screen. I was required to copy them from one record to another, but they weren't in my hands. It wasn't up to me. I just had to copy them. That's what happened. For the last two departmental exams, which constituted 50% of their grade together, it didn't even go through me. So that means that their failing grades they earned had to be recorded. They were actually reported to me, not me reporting them. And you are going to have to look at some of these sisters you don't even know, and you're going to have to say, not my damn problem, like I had to say to my students, not my problem. Even, especially the end, definitely not my problem. Because they didn't even go through my hands. Another professor marked your test 2. AI marked your test 3. They were just reported to me, not my problem. I didn't do this. You go back and fix your damn English. Because now we have proof that this was not based on how the F I felt. And you're going to be looking at sisters and you're going to be able to say to them, no, you had government programs, you had X, Y, and Z, and you had an easy time getting brothers. That's why you're here knocking on my mother cuss word door right now. You're here knocking on my door because you had an easy time getting brothers to give you what it is that you want. No. You didn't have to actually pass any test. And now you're sitting here looking at me without passing any test. And you're thinking, oh, great. You're thinking, oh, what a relief. I got him. And I'm saying to you, this is not your day of relief. That's not how this works. You showed up. And you've been able to get what you wanted. And it hasn't worked this time. What I had to do today was not as difficult as what you're going to have to do. My students came to me and they said, what about the money that we spent? And I said, well, what about it? I told you in the beginning, your dad spent this much money and I wasn't willing to waste it. So I was going to tell you what you needed to do. I told you. I told you that I specialize in making English easy, but you have to do what I say. You have to do it the way I say to do it. You have to do it when I tell you to do it. You guys had your own mind. Well, you don't get to bring your own mind and your will and your opinion and use it to trump what I'm telling you about a language that's already objectively correct or incorrect. You don't get to do that. If I tell you put your phone on the desk, you don't say to me, no, I don't feel like it. No, put your damn phone on the desk. You're saying to me that you had 17 weeks to fix 6 and 12-year-old errors in your head. Yeah, well, you knew that when you got started. I told you what to fix. And mostly the errors that caused you to fail were the errors that were foundational, basic level errors you didn't fix, but I still taught you how. If I spent week 1 teaching you guys basic subject-verb agreement, and you prove that most of y'all actually knew this stuff, then why the hell didn't you use it when you spoke during the speaking test and when you wrote during your essays? The hell is going on? And you're going to be looking at sisters having to say something that is even harder and tougher than what I had to say to my students. You're going to be looking at them and you're going to have to say to them, listen, you're the mom of them kids. You're responsible, not me. You need a warm place to stay. Why should I just open this place up to you like that? I don't know you. But the kids, and it's cold out here, and they crying and they hungry. Yeah, but okay, if this is going to be my problem, then that means that I get authority over them kids because they own my property. You want me to shelter them. I don't owe you nothing. But you know what? The kids are innocent. So even though I don't owe them, in order for me to shelter them, I actually have a condition, but I'm willing to do it. However, you got to sign the authority of them kids over to me. I'm responsible. I get authority. They're here under my rules. And you watch how they're going to sit up and start going back and forth with you instead of just turning around and walking the F off your property, like the students were about to do with me this morning. What do we do? Nigga, you repeat the class. That's what you do. But we spent a lot of money. Well, nigga, you shouldn't have wasted the money you spent. I told you how to not do it. But they didn't walk out until I said, no, there's no solution that I know of right now. You can ask around an administrator and don't tell me whatever they decide. Because if they decide to just give you passing grades, I'm going to embarrass them in front of a newspaper. So don't do it. Don't tell me whatever they decide. But for me, I'm going by the book. You failed. Not because I hate you. I don't hate you. You failed because you repeated the same mistakes. Anyone who repeats these mistakes fails. And you're going to have to be able to look at these women and say even harder to them, you're going to be out there in this cold and in this snow. You're going to be there in a tent or under the bridge or something. And gentlemen, it's going to be even harder because see, in San Bernardino, California, as one example, it's not the only place, but it's one example. Homeless people are being dragged off by wild animals, and people don't even know what kind of wild animals it are. They can tell you a long list of what they know it's not, but they don't know what they are. That's the issue. They don't know what these animals are that are dragging off the homeless. But whatever it is, it's smart as hell because it's not grabbing people that live in homes. It's grabbing people that live in these camps, tents. And if you ask the homeless, they'll tell you that they've heard the sound of a tent being ripped and somebody being dragged off. And they know that what it is dragging them off ain't human. But they ain't about to stick their head out their own tent and look and see what it is. So I want you guys to understand that even with a situation like that, in order to protect what it is that you have worked for, you're going to have that cold-hearted severity to look them in the face and say, you're going to be out there in that cold, in that snow, in that heat with the mosquitoes or with whatever is out there. Even if even a predator start grabbing people because they can, because there are more people out exposed to the elements that are easy prey. You're going to be out there with that thing, whatever it is, because of the decisions that you made. And that's going to be a hard thing to look them in the face and say, and you still going to have to be able to look them in the face and say it because it ain't your fault. Just like I had to look at my students today and say, well, look, I see y'all are ticked off. I don't necessarily blame you for how you feel. I mean, a lot of you weren't really ill-behaved students. That's not the problem. You just didn't fix your damn English. But you know what? It ain't my fault. Even if something was the fault of the university and not mine or yours, I made sure you didn't suffer for that. Not my fault. Not my fault. It's yours. And you're going to have to look at them sisters and say, not my fault. And they're going to tell you these stories about why it ain't their fault. And sometimes they're going to be telling the truth. And you're going to have to say, well, it may not be. But more importantly, it ain't my fault. Even if it ain't yours, it ain't mine. It's not my job to fix that. I don't know you. I can't just be bringing strangers into my house. Yeah, it might be cold out there, but you know what? We need to work something out so you earn your keep while you're here. So in a nutshell, I wanted you to understand that I'm telling you this because what I had to do for me was easy because I've been waiting 10 years to do it. And it still made me a bit nervous. still might. There's a chance that they're going to get together because they're organized and they're going to lie. I think they're already talking about what lie they're going to tell to the president of the university and what lies they're going to tell so that they can make me look as bad as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, I'm going to tell some of them, listen, I told the students, well, one of the students that did pass, I told them, listen, here's the deal. You, sir, you did pass. Really, I gave you 2 percentage points because you were that close to passing. So I gave you the rest. But let's say you did enough of the work for the most part. Okay, you did it. I want you to know that you're still not ready for the next step. But if you spend your free time busting your behind, you could conceivably get ready for it. And he said, okay, all right. And he said to me, I already talked to the vice president of the university. And I told him, you've explained this stuff. Now, I don't know why he had a conversation with the vice president. But he said, I already told him, you do explain this stuff. Those students that were in here now talking about you don't explain it, they used to sit up and say you explained it. Now they want to sit up and say you didn't explain. I told him, you explained this stuff. And I told the students to study and practice, and they didn't listen. They said it's not that important. A former student of mine visited me a few days ago and said the same thing. My students, here's the kicker, my students came to me, and when they were facing the surprise that they were facing today, understand this, the surprise they faced today was not because, it's not what you think. They were facing surprise today because really and truly, though they didn't do enough work, they didn't know that the work they were not doing was not enough. They didn't know the work that they were doing was not enough. See, they really thought their English was better than it was because nobody had told them before, man, you uck and fuck, your English is broken. You're understandable, but your English is broken. Guess what? There's students out there that are going to learn correctly. You're not able to compete with them until you start to fix your mistakes, and you have mistakes to fix. That was one of the things that they didn't understand. And they didn't believe me when I told them this. They thought I was making it up and just trying to scare them to make them extra good in English, when in fact, I was trying to tell them, no, you're not adequate. You can get there, but you're not adequate yet. So because they thought that I wasn't really serious and it wasn't really as what I was making it out to be, I was just trying to get them to be extra good, that they didn't really need to do what I told them, and they didn't do it. And so therefore they wound up failing. And one said, is there any student that's ready to go into the core curriculum after this if we're not ready? And I told him, I don't know about the other ones. I met those who have been ready. I've met those who have not. Whatever they prove to me is the case, is how I record them. And that's what happened in this time. You guys write damn near like you're baboons. And that's the major portion. That's the hardest part to pass. But that's the part you need the most for the first few core curriculum classes you're going to take. I know that from experience. And they're going to go and make stuff up. And you're going to be in similar situations in which some of these ladies are going to say things and falsely accuse you because they're going to just simply not be able to accept the fact that they screwed up. And many of them, because they've been getting by with positive feedback for so long, they really are going to think, many of these women are really, truly going to think and believe that what they've done is adequate. They're not lying. They really think that what they've done is enough. Many of them they'll know that what they did regarding you in life was not enough. They know that. They know and they don't care. They do what they do regarding you because it's not good for you or because it's wrong to do or be. You get the idea. But what I'm saying to you is that when it comes down to what they've done in life, many of them actually will have made effort to go after everything in life that they want, except you. But then this is where it gets strange, as they will make every effort for everything else in life they want, except for you. They will turn around and then run out of the steam it takes to sustain the things that they have earned. These trophy houses they get require maintenance. These trophy cars that they get require maintenance. These expensive pets they want to get require maintenance. Now understand, when they buy the rose, they're going to keep some batteries around, and the right size batteries for that rose. But when it comes down to what they have chosen to go after in life, which never includes you because they automatically undervalue you, that in and of itself is going to be why it is that they don't get to keep the things that they have earned, because they won't know the maintenance of these things. And they won't have you to turn to, or me, or anyone else for the maintenance of these things. Hell, a lot of times things that we don't know how to fix, we still know how to at least use properly, to where you don't have to fix them very often. Some of you know how to drive a car so that it won't even require the same maintenance as it would if somebody else were to drive it. I'm not saying it would require none, but some of you how to drive your cars in a way that lowers the maintenance frequency required. You think she knows? She don't feel a guck. Some of you actually, you're so efficient with your vehicles that you have prevented a lot of wear and tear because you don't drive during certain times on certain routes. You know when and how and where to avoid stop and go traffic that puts the most wear on engines. You avoid that, you save a lot of wear and tear on your engine, and your engine's in better condition than other cars the same age as yours. You think she knows that? She don't feel a guck. Some of you learn where alternative stores to the things that you like are, so that if the traffic is bad going in that direction, you know where else to go to get the same thing. You calculate, you're economical with time, fuel, and every other resource. You think she is? She's the opposite. She'll waste it. So many of them don't know that what it is that they've learned in life is really not that helpful. And you're going to be the one to stand in their way of what they want and tell them what you have done does not cover this. It does not guarantee you this. It does not make you deserve this. And you will be the first one that they ever heard tell them something like this. And they will say, well, I didn't know that I needed to do X, Y, and Z. And that's when we're going to say, well, no, you did hear about it, but you didn't know that we were telling the truth. Now you know. Know also that they're going to, like I said, come with false accusations. Also know that they're going to try to come to you with all sorts of emotional and religious white mail, not black mail. My students today tried that with me. Well, you know, there's God above us and there's a judgment day. And I'm like, yeah, but he's not going to punish me for doing the right thing. So why'd you bring that up? Many times you will feel strange because you will be the first one to actually apply justice and fairness and tell them something you were completely within your rights to say to them. But that will be unfamiliar ground for you. Know that that strange feeling is not your fault. But if you continue to enable what many other professors and administrators enabled for decades in this kingdom, then you will become part of the problem. You, by kicking that can down the road, will turn around and kick it onto somebody else that didn't do anything to deserve it. Welcome to the time in history in which you get to be the first one to stop kicking a particular can down the road and say, no, this goes in the trash can. Maybe the recycling bin if there's one around. I hope that this helps you out, and I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout, black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. And thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.